Oh my god, bruh, look at Yuji hook kick this man. I know, it happens like halfway through the episode, but I'm too impatient to reach that part in my review. I need to talk about it right now. Look at how good this looks! What the hell, man? Nah, bruv, the rotoscoped character acting in JJK Season 3 is actually ridiculous. It's added so much, like, sauce to this already sauced up anime. Sure, some crazy stuff happens in this episode, but this one little flashback scene of Yuji aura farming on some high school bullies, it's just living rent-free in my head, like I actually just can't stop watching it. But anyway, I'll actually get into my review of the episode now before my retention starts declining steeper than Higuruma's nose. Today was a big day for Jujutsu Kaisen, and to be honest, the more I think about it, the more the idea of an anime only who has never heard of the amazing lawyer/genius that is Hiromi Higuruma is kinda hilarious to think about, because like you must have been so confused when the opening shot of the episode was a grown-ass man in a bathtub, fully clothed, on a theater stage, with a note on a projector reading, "In Japan, 99.9% of criminal trials end in a guilty verdict." Like, that's so weird, that's such a weird way to open an episode. It must have had so many of you confused, bro. But to be fair, as funny as this seems at first, we soon learn that the context is really depressing. Not the like, oh my god, that's so sad, I'm gonna cry kind of depressing. More so the, oh my days, man, humanity is so screwed. How did it ever come to this? What is even the point anymore? It's that kind of depressing. His backstory starts with Higuruma being a normal 9-to-5 lawyer in Japan, which had my anime-only friends, you know, asking me if we were still watching JJK because, yeah, this all feels way more grounded in reality than what we normally get from this show, which I guess is kind of the point, right? It's a commentary on the exhausting injustice of, ironically, the Japanese judicial system, but to be honest, the message does kind of apply to a lot of countries, not just Japan. Now, I personally, I love this backstory, because it begins with the case of this NPC who is found in possession of the murder weapon used in a recent killing. Basically, all of the evidence is like stacked against him, which would usually mean the case is relatively open and shut. Any normal defense lawyer would do what they could to get paid, but none of them would actually care enough about upholding justice to even consider the possibility that he was innocent because it seemed so, you know, implausible. Except Higuruma is no ordinary lawyer. Money does not drive him. He believes in justice and works himself to the bone, as I'm sure you can see from the way he looks, to ensure that all his clients get what they deserve. Which is why he keeps looking into his client's story despite his assistant telling him that it's a waste of time. Now, when we hear the NPC's full account from Higuruma, suddenly him being innocent becomes a lot more believable. And what I really love about this is that we never actually find out if that one guy was innocent or not, because that isn't the point. The point is that Higuruma cared enough to look into the possibility that he was innocent, because that's what it takes to achieve real justice. The next case that we see in the flashback kind of dives deeper into this idea because, long story short, it exposes how the Japanese judicial system is basically pay to win. Despite all of the work to try and achieve true, fair justice for the defendant, the outcome was decided from the very beginning, and that made Higuruma mad as fuck. Around the same time as all of this going down though, you know, Kenjaku conveniently started the culling games in Shibuya and caused people all across Japan to awaken curse techniques, one of those people of course being Hiromi Higuruma. So, once his defendant had his initial, you know, ruling overturned and had been given a life-fucking sentence, Hiromi Higuruma lost it. And oh my god, what a sequence. Look at this art, bro. This the kind of face that I'd see from my parents in the rear view mirror if I turned the roof light on in the car. You know? You get me? You get me. And then we just hear him start banging a gavel on the desk, which was such a dope way to build, like, anticipation and tension for the reveal of his Judgment Shikigami, which is somehow even creepier in the anime than in the manga. Especially later on when we see how it kind of like emerges from the tub that Higuruma's in, like its face pops out of the water. Oh, that's so cool. But anyway, yeah, Higuruma locks in, everyone come back, we're having a retrial. And then we cut to the announcement of Higuruma as an awakened culling game player for the halfway mark in the episode. Holy peak. Things then basically pick up where we left off last episode, with Rin and Mai telling Yuji that Higuruma is in Ikebukuro, and that stupid bit, that Remy chick telling Megami that Higuruma is in Shinjuku. And by the way, the point of this little flashback scene, where, you know, the show suddenly becomes Windbreaker, is to show how Amai kind of like looks up to Yuji in a way, because Yuji refuses to just be a bystander. Yuji literally goes out of his way to help people, which is very relevant to what we saw from Higuruma earlier in the episode. Some food for thought. Anyway, time to glaze the production of this episode. Yeah, don't worry, I haven't forgotten, because oh my god, this was actually mad, alright? Again, I love the rotoscope character acting in Season 3. The The way Yuji is just like effortlessly dodging their attacks and the way he throws those kicks, it looks so dope. I love it. It really does look like a real person is doing them, which I guess is kind of the point of rotoscoping. But yeah, it really does make a huge difference. The most impressive thing about this episode by far though, that a lot of you may not actually know, is that the entire thing was animated by one person. Kind of. Koki Fujimoto. He acted as the sole key animator for this masterclass of an episode, which means he did the vast majority, pretty much all of the animating work for every single sequence. To kind of put that in perspective, the last episode and most other episodes have around 20 primary key animators working on it. This episode had one. Yeah, sure, there were still like around 30-second key animators to help finish up the work, but most of the workload fell to just him, which is insane. And if you have a key eye for this kind of stuff, then you might actually be able to tell by just watching it, because the scenes with lots of movement are animated beautifully, but there are also just way more still shots and slow pans that are there to kind of reduce the workload and effectively cut corners so that the higher priority scenes can get more attention. That's why 1 minute you have, a very long-lasting still shot of a building, and then the next you have this unbelievable, like, first-person POV shot of the defendant looking at his handcuffs, looking at the floor, and we have even more 2D environments as we're moving forward, for no reason other than, like, the artist flexing their artistry. And maybe in, like, other anime, like your average anime, it would be more noticeable, but JJK Season 3's background art and composition is just so fucking good that even when I look at, a city or a building for more than 10 seconds, it still feels engaging. It's just nice to look at. Oh, and the music in this episode? Mwah, incredible. Like, the music in Higuruma's backstory, it kind of reminded me slightly of By the Pool from Chainsaw Man, But yeah, just the whole thing. The background art, phenomenal. The way we cut from the kind of desaturated, very normal, grounded in reality look of Higuruma's life to then the sort of like purple, bluish, very, very cold kind of aesthetic that we have in the barrier in present time in the Culling games kind of separates the first part of the episode from the second, right? Like, it's two completely different worlds that I feel like we're living in, which can kind of maybe represent the way that, Tengen said Kenjaku has moved Japan across to the other side. We've gone from reality into this fucked up jujutsu world that Kenjaku has created. Or maybe I'm just looking into that and they like the color blue, I don't know. But then, yeah, we also have these, like, amazing shots of, the defendant walking down the hallway with that 2D environment that we saw in the Hakari introduction episode for no real reason other than it looking dope. Again, the first-person POV, the amazing art of Higuruma's eye. Even just that scene later on in the episode of Higuruma dramatically walking towards Yuji down the stairs is like, it's just done so well that it makes up for the, still shots throughout the episode. Anyway, the rest of the episode is basically a mix of Megami and Yuji arriving at their destinations and finding out that they have either been tricked or that they have found their target. As expected, Megami was the one who got tricked, but thank God he did, because Megami versus JoJo's side character 42 is actually a generational fight that is going to be hard to hate on no matter how strong your anti-Megami agenda is. That fight is going to have to wait for the moment though, because first, Yuji is confronting Higuruma, who has, been found lying in a bathtub, fully clothed in a theater that he has made his base of operations for the Culling game. And oh my god, bro, like, Higuruma's voice actor was just cracking me up in this scene. Listen to his laugh after he tells this dad joke. Jokes aside though, the lighting and composition on this entire sequence is amazing. The way he's just like sat there playing with the water with wide eyes makes him look deranged. Like, he's a grown-ass man in a suit, sat in a bathtub in a theater playing with water like he's 4 years old, bro. Like, it's crazy. He's out of his mind. And it's, the whole scene is so desaturated, and it all just further reinforces how depressing and lost this character is. It's amazing. His reasoning for rejecting Yuji's proposal of using his points to create a rule to stop killing also interested me a lot when I read it in the manga, because, he's obviously unaware of Kenjaku's true goal, but even when Yuji says that the game will eventually lead to everybody's death, his logic for, like, calling bullshit on that is completely sound. It's actually so sound that even Yuji questions himself. You see, the Culling game is built to literally make sure that the game isn't forcefully ended, even by Kenjaku. So it starts begging the question, what has Kenjaku got planned to actually beat the rules of his own game? Higuruma's interest in the Culling game and Jujutsu as a whole being, a way to force an unbiased justice upon Japan is really interesting, and to be honest, I can definitely see where he's coming from with the concept of it. But the Culling games itself is obviously just too brutal to actually work. Still, his interest in a system that delivers forceful, unbiased justice automatically is kind of valid, especially, given what he's seen from the judicial system of humans. I'm getting sick of saying judicial, like, it's just a difficult word to say in a script. Where I think Higuruma's character really shines, though, is when he's clashing with Yuji Itadori, the judgment versus the judged. It creates for an incredibly interesting dynamic that unfortunately we're not going to see until next episode, so the anime onlys are going to have to, you know, wait for the payoff of this episode, but trust me, it's so going to be worth it. And then when Higuruma gets out of the tub in response to Yuji's threat, like the theater lights just change to neon red and blue, which I guess can only be explained by saying it was divine intervention because of how much aura there currently is in this theater. Seriously though, the last time we got the red and blue neon lights in a fight was Yuji versus Chozo, so I am expecting some serious peak next episode. Higuruma walks ominously towards Yuji, and then the OST just starts cooking, bruv. I can't play it, because, you know, copyright, but just imagine that I am. Yeah. Drums. Guitar. Absolute cinema. Wait, is that fucking domain expansion off rip? Bro, what are we even doing here? Yeah, bro, no wonder this dude tore through half the players in this colony already. Man is clearly a beast. God, the domain also just looks so dope. Like, especially with him banging that hammer again, bro. It's so cool. And speaking of him looking dope, listen, when it comes to this character, you know what the JJK fandom is like, alright? I just know the Gojo figure incident side of the fandom is gooning so hard to this, bro. Hell, some of you are probably gooning to him while watching this video. Freaky ass bitch. But yeah, to be continued. Actually, not quite, because one more very, very important thing happens in this episode. But in order for me to point out how truly awesome it is, I'm gonna get into spoiler territory. So if you're an anime only who doesn't want to be spoiled, then you have 3 seconds to leave. Okay, so Reggie tells Megami that Kenjaku is plotting something, which was easy enough for him to figure out, because Reggie is an incarnated sorcerer from the past who has met Kenjaku before. Yeah, anyone who meets that guy should be able to figure out that he's an absolute freak. Now, the actual analogy that he uses is that Kenjaku will drop a bomb later on in the game. And then at the end of the episode, we see Kenjaku in this unbelievably creepy shot of him walking down a purple lit hallway to speak to the Chinese government. But we see an extended version of the bomb dropping visual that we also see in the opening, including the actual detonation. Now, if you watched my ISO deep dive video, you should know that this visual is way more awesome than you probably realize, because I went on Google Earth and I actually found the exact location in Japan that this bomb drops, and it is right here in Shinjuku. Yeah, it looks familiar, right? That's because we manga readers have seen it before. In fact, the detonation of this bomb is likely the very first teaser we have ever gotten of Gojo vs Sukuna in the anime. It falls directly where Gojo's unlimited hollow purple detonates. Coincidence? I think not. Anyway, yeah, I just thought that was cool, and I also I love that shot of Kenjaku walking creepily down the hallway, like oh my god, bro, this villain is so sick, and Gege, you fumbled. Nah, do you know what, let's not even talk about that, alright, positive thoughts only, Kenjaku is sick. Overall though, W episode, I love the execution of the flashback as a manga reader, but I do think this one is just going to be more enjoyable for manga readers who actually know what's coming. The weekly experience of this episode to an anime only or a casual viewer might seem a bit lackluster, but trust me, it's all gonna come together nicely next week. Just give it time. Oh, and Matt Mercer Higuruma, please, pretty please, can we get a Levi, a Law Higuruma? Matt Mercer, please, thank you. Oh, and also, if you want like a really deep dive analysis of this fight, make sure to go watch my Higuruma vs Yuji analysis video. People really like it. It did quite well. So yeah, it's one of my best works. Definitely go check that out if you love this fight. Alright, that's enough yappage for one day though. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in a bit.